Hey, y'all, welcome back to In the Blind podcast. My name is Eric Gunnarsson. I'm your host. I'm one half of the country duo Love and Theft, and today we are joined by an absolute legend, a guy that I've watched from the time I was a kid, been a huge fan, and he's had an absolutely incredible career. Y'all, please make welcome the legend, Mr. Clint Black.
Well, thank you. Please.
Hold your applause.
Hold your applause.
Man, thank you so much for coming on today.
Good to see you.
You as well. It's such a pleasure to sit down with you, and I'm really looking forward to diving into your career and everything that you've accomplished over the years, what you got coming next, what you've been working on. So I guess let's start at the beginning. I know
you think I know all that stuff?
I'm hoping so, but you never know these days, right?
Yeah.
There's
a guy right over there who knows a lot of whatever I forgot.
Managers are the glue that keep us held together.
The receptacle of it all.
Absolutely. Well, I know you were born in New Jersey. That's one thing that we share. I was born right over the New Jersey border in Nyack, New York, and lived there till I was 6 or 7 years old. But you grew up in Texas, correct?
Yeah, we were only up there till I was about 6 months old.
Okay.
I still have the accent, that Jersey Shore accent. Yeah, Long Branch, and I was the last of four boys, and my mom had gone up there for the end of three of her four pregnancies.
Okay.
And she's from Alabama. My dad's from Texas,
really?
So we ended up in Texas. Yeah.
And so what brought them up there?
My mom's mom was
Okay.
up there, and best we can tell, it's because her husband was a longshoreman.
Oh, okay.
Working up there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. My parents moved us to North Carolina when we were kids, and my mom was pregnant with my sister. And for whatever reason, she wanted to have both of us in the same hospital in New York. So we all flew back up there for my sister to be born, stayed there for a couple months, and then went back to North Carolina. But I never understood that.
Yeah. It's, she already had three young boys. So being with her mom, that makes sense. You know, she's gonna need the help. Yeah.
So when did you know that you wanted to play country music? I mean, I know the business, the landscape of everything was so different back then. Looking at today's, the younger generation, the kids that are coming up making music now. It's like even when me and Steven got in the business 21 years ago, it was, I would say, way more like it was when you were starting in the business. Obviously, it was different, but I mean, I remember hearing about iTunes for the first time and freaking out, thinking, all right, this is going digital. This is going to take away from records, CDs, cassettes, whatever it was at the time. And
it was just almost 20 years ago that the iPhone came out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was 13. I picked up the harmonica.
Really?
And at that point, I was emulating James Cotton, blues artist, and Magic Dick from Jay Giles Band, and Neil Young, and so a lot of blues stuff. But I think 2 years later, I picked up the acoustic guitar, and from that point on, I was singing anything I could learn.
Yeah.
And it probably took about 2 years from then for me to decide that this is going to be my life, however it turns out. I wanted to be an astronaut. I had singer's grades.
Right.
So that wasn't going to happen. And those were my two paths, either into music or join the Air Force and try to get into the space program.
Back then, did you have the pressure from your parents of, you need to do this, and this, you need to check these boxes?
No.
That's incredible.
No, they were very encouraging about the music. My dad thought I should have something to fall back on, and he suggested learn how to repair air conditioners. They need a lot of it in Houston, so.
Right.
But I didn't have a backup plan.
That's cool. I mean, you're one of the best storytellers, I think, that's ever done it. Just listening to your songs over the years, and even kind of getting ready for this podcast, I went back and I was listening to songs. I was like, "Holy crap, that's insane! I haven't listened to that in years." And I think your music has, just stood the test of time. I mean,
Thanks.
It's incredible, and I think so many of these new artists are really emulating, what you've done, how you write songs, and I think the storytelling when I listen to your music is just the one piece of it that I'm just like, holy cow, this guy tells a story better than almost anyone. So who are some of your influences? Who are the people that taught you how to write a song? And
but thank you for the great compliment, by the way.
I mean it with
the best compliment
you
could pay me is that it stood the test of time, because that's all I've tried to do was not be trendy and make something that can't be, pinholed to a certain time. That's
right.
that's what country music was going through then, so that's why it sounded that way.
Yeah.
And the people I was listening, my dad, showed me how to read liner notes when I was little, and he did it with a Haggard 45 record. And there's this is the artist, this is the songwriter, and this is the producer. And I noticed Haggard had written the song, and from that point on, I was a voracious liner notes reader. So I learned that my favorite artists wrote their songs, so it drove me to want to be a songwriter along with the singing. And those were Haggard, Willie and Waylon,
right.
Tom T. Hall, maybe the greatest storyteller of all, outside of country, which is a huge list. We all know who all those are, right? But Loggins and Messina, the Eagles, Jimmy Buffett, James Taylor, Jim Croce, Dan Fogelberg. There were groups, Steely Dan was Fagan and Becker,
right.
Their songwriting, Skinner's, Bob Seger, so many rock groups, Led Zeppelin, had a different kind of impact because I couldn't understand a lot of the lyrics, but the songs were so good. But James Gang, Joe Walsh, you name it, the classic rock. They don't often enough. They're not often enough thought of for their songwriting.
Yeah.
But Seeger, Ship of Fools, Main Street.
Incredible stuff.
Yeah, Come to Papa, and Skinner. Some of the best songwriting in popular music.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Of course, the Beatles.
Right.
Everyone cites them. So outside of that, way over here was Johnny and Edgar Winter, Shake Russell, Dana Cooper band. We had, they were more local. Beaumont for Johnny and Edgar. In Houston, Shake Russell, the stuff coming out of Austin, Ray Wiley Hubbard,
right.
Marshall Tucker band out of the Carolinas. And, so I was being fed from all of these places. Jimmy Rogers, T for Texas, and just so much great country music, and then the classic rock stuff. The bar was high.
Yeah.
And so to consider myself a songwriter, I held myself up to them, and not how does this song compare to that song, but what would he think or she think of this song, and if you play a song, this, you write a song and man, this is it. I've done it. This is done. And as soon as you play that for one person, you hear all the things in it that are letting you down. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
It's just that, you could play it for yourself over and over again and think you're finished, but you won't know until you're playing it for someone else, because you've stepped over into their ears, and now you're really hearing it. And you sort of chew this lyric because you don't really want to sing it because you don't think it's good enough.
Yeah.
And so I I would do that with them in mind, with Henley and Fry in mind, and so on, and try to write songs that I think they would point to and say, well done.
Yeah. And one of the coolest moments I've ever had on stage, growing up, I was one of the biggest Jackson Browne fans.
Jackson Browne.
Ever.
Yeah.
And we had written a song probably 50. I was actually looking for the song yesterday. It was 15 years ago. It was in, actually maybe even longer. It was 2011, I think. We'd written a song with J.D. Souther. And he was getting honored at the ASCAP Honors or
This is When You're Only Lonely.
When You're Only Lonely. And me and Stephen and Brian sang that at the show. And 5 minutes before we go on, Jackson Browne walks into our green room and sits down. So I was nervous already, just, playing in front of all these people and playing a song that wasn't ours, that was, an amazing song. So he comes in, he's like, all right, guys, this is a big moment. Don't let me down. I'm thinking, okay, I haven't told this guy he's my idol. Like, every song I've ever written, I've had him in mind when I was doing it.
Yeah.
But I remember afterwards he came over, JD standing there. He's like, I think you guys might have sang that better than JD ever did. Just, he was joking, but just to have him pay us any type of compliment was one of the coolest things.
Yeah, but to come in and Don Rickles you first,
absolutely.
Is
and
great.
He knew what he
because,
was doing.
Because we as musicians do that to each other,
Yeah.
If you're in a band and you're not poking fun at each other, you're not really in a band. And we did that growing up, my brothers and me and my mom and dad. We laughed at ourselves when we could. And we do that in my band,
It's important.
So he came in and gave you a little bit of family.
That's what it felt like.
He did. Yeah.
I mean, it spiked my nerves, and I was on a different level when we went out on stage. But I mean, just the contribution he's made just to music and all those guys. I mean,
and he was omitted from my list just because it's so long. But Jackson was really, really critical to me. That Running on Empty album, Saturate Before Using, those were well worn and played. I played all those songs in the bars. And I got to meet him. I recorded at his studio.
Really?
And it's not an open to anyone studio. And I was, Elliot Shiner, the engineer, producer, was engineering for me and said, would you think about, recording over at Jackson's? And, it was an instant yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just there for 2 days. But on the first day, Jackson showed up, said hey, and took me around the storage rooms next to it and showed me some of the stuff. And those you don't dream about that getting into this business. You just want an audience. You want to be on the radio.
Yep.
Want to have a great band and crew. Mm-hmm. And then, you meet Mel Tillis on your first event in Nashville, or Willie and Haggard. You go to lunch with Waylon, and you're trying to keep it together and keep your head on straight.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. We were fortunate enough to have I don't know if you're familiar with Josh Leo or Jim Ed Norman.
Josh was head of A&R at my label for a while.
Oh,
I knew him through Buffett.
Okay,
as Jimmy and I became friends, and he played with Jimmy and
Glenn Fry.
And Glenn.
Yeah.
I didn't get to know Glenn that well, but we were invited to Henley's wedding. And him and Sharon and Glenn was there, and Glenn was having a good time.
Was he?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was fun.
That whole process of recording that record. I mean, we did 3 or 4 records with Josh, and then he had Jim Ed Norman come in on the project we recorded for Curb, and it was one of the coolest experiences of my life. I mean, it was the slowest recording process ever because Jim and Josh would literally just sit there and tell stories about being in the studio with the Eagles or with, Jimmy and the Coral Reefers, or when he was working with Glenn Fry. And it was the most incredible just education and, what some of my biggest influences. So to sit there and hear these stories about, Glenn and, Don and
how'd it
Timothy
go?
B. Schmidt and stuff. It was just such a cool thing, and it's one of my favorite projects we've ever made. I mean, we made it more in the old school traditional way. I mean, none of the real overdubs like everybody does now. It's, you know, it was great just play with a full live band and have some of those guys. Timothy B. Schmidt sang on a couple of songs for us, and Josh called in some guys from the Allman Brothers to play on, that had played in their band, to play on our stuff. So it was just a really cool thing that never would have happened had those guys not been, you know, the guys producing it. So
yeah, and with them relaxing the process to the point where they go off on stories, I learned to relax the process from James Stroud, who you know, we would get in there and we would be all set, and then he would play some Al White Motors tapes, or we'd watch the Dancing Outlaw from PBS. And the Al White Motors tape, I think it was three cassettes full, and that would just be playing constantly, but muted. And in the middle of trying to get our takes together and figure out the arrangements, suddenly he would unmute it, and we'd be on the headphones listening to Al White Motors. And so it taught me, when I went on to produce just myself, you know, I was already set to get in there and not make it a task. And take the time and tell the story and laugh and joke and what that does for a band, whether it's session guys who are making up the band or your own band, it's invaluable. And there are still people making records on the clock. Who they missed that lesson in magic.
I mean, I've experienced that even just this year. You know. Trying to make a record on, you know, a tighter budget than we've done in the past, and so you'll cut corners at times. I would say, just for the sake of the economics of all of it. And then, but after making a couple records in that fashion, where Josh was always very purposeful when he would come into a session. You know, one time he showed up wearing his white overalls that he used to wear. You know, he was playing with Jimmy and the Core Reefers, and then another time he'll show up in a full suit. Other times he'll show up in jeans and a flannel shirt, but like, his mood coming into the session and his outfit and everything, it was all very purposeful. It was orchestrated. He thought about it beforehand, and depending on who the guys that were playing on the session were, he would change that a little bit. If it was Tom Bukovac versus, you know, Jerry McPherson or whatever on guitar, they all know that he's an incredible guitar player, but he would come in the fact room.
That and I think with Josh and with Stroud, you know, they've been on the other end of those sessions. You know, so they know what a Taskmaster does to the vibe.
And we've made records with other producers that, you know, it just feels stiff. It doesn't. There's no fun. There's even the players aren't enjoying it because he's a Taskmaster in a different way, and he's kind of cracking the whip and trying to get people, but that doesn't always work. And it impacts and affects the take. It affects the music that's going to come out of that room that day. And I learned so much from Josh and just his process. And it's one thing I'd love just sitting with him for hours and just hearing stories, hearing, you know, all the different ways that you can record music. It's, you know, I thought there was a formula, and there really isn't.
And the stories that, you know, it's like when you're telling jokes, and you reminded me of another joke. So when you start winding up that machine, you never know where it's going to take you, and sometimes they start reliving things that they hadn't talked about before, and you know, hearing an experience. You know, when then Clapton walked in, or you know, with me, it's, you know, I showed up and Waylon and Christofferson were there, and you know, you know, outside of just recording and what all that does to that, being able to be in this business deep enough to get those experiences and be around those people, being around Buck Owens, you know, and hearing them tell a story. Maybe they've told a bunch and they've really got it down, or maybe they just remembered something. They're big things, you know, to us, to be able to that get so much from their music, you know. And we didn't think we'd ever be meeting them, working with them, right?
Yeah.
I did a record, my fourth album, and Kenny Loggins and I had become friends, and so I had asked him, to sing some background vocals, and I think he, said, "Why don't we get Schmidt?" So now I've got Tommy Funderburk is the third vocal. He's a great singer. And I've got Kenny Loggins and Timothy Schmidt.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there working up arrangements. So I have my own ideas, but, these guys had already mastered that process. Yeah. So listening to them formulate ideas and try this and say, you go up there, I'll go here. And it's just priceless. It's not, you can't buy it.
No, you're right.
And you couldn't have dreamed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember thinking back about that process, and in the moment, I'm looking at my watch. I'm thinking, all right, we've got the studio for 8 hours today, 2 sessions. And Josh has been telling this story for the last hour and 15 minutes. And now all these session guys have now come out of the control or into the control room. Yeah. And I'm thinking, all right, we're never going to get this done.
There is a point where you go, okay, the story is great, but.
Right. But looking back on it, the things I remember from that process are those stories. Like, I don't remember who played what that day. I don't necessarily remember if the part was incredible. I mean, sure, a couple of them were signature licks that ended up being, part of a hit song. That's great. But when I think back on those moments, I'm like, man, I remember Jim Ed Norman telling me how, Glenn was feeling like he was a little ahead of the groove and needed to relax and chill out a little bit. So he asked somebody to bring him in a joint. Someone else was a little behind the beat, asked for a little bump to get him going. I was like, man, that stuff was real. It's like you hear those stories and you think they're all folklore. And he's like, oh no, this was legit. Like they'd asked for a Budweiser. They called them Bud Puppies or something at the time, and just hearing stuff like that.
Just to relax.
Yeah, it's wild.
I got to sit between Henley and Fry at a BMI Awards dinner.
Wow.
On a round table. Yeah. And they were being honored, and the clip was being played on screens, live footage of them doing Hotel California. Wow. And it was at the end, the solo and the outro. And Fry leans over and says to him, past me to Henley, I told him they needed to turn my guitar up. I thought, man, we're all the same, really, when it comes down to it.
Absolutely. That's such a cool
just
story.
Priceless. Yeah.
That's incredible. So who are the guys? I mean, I know you talked about influences, but as far as acts that were touring when you were getting started, were there any that really took you under their wing and kind of gave you kind of a crash course in what it was all about?
Yeah, I got a crash course from Yoakum. He tortured us a little bit. But we were with him for about a month. I did a few shows with the Judds, a couple with Dolly. And really, I'd say that I opened for Buffett and Little Feat in '89 at Ladd Stadium in Mobile. And Jimmy and I became friends, and he would spend 2 hours on the phone with me.
Wow.
At times, and just took me under his wing, told me things, and it was I'd say I got the most out of that friendship. With him, just smart guy.
Yeah.
Been around, knew a lot of people,
right.
Seen a lot of things. And to get that kind of advice, I watched Gary Shandling doing that with comics. We'd go play basketball over at his house every Sunday, and I would see these comics and writers getting him off to the side and asking him things. And Gary was a great mentor, and I went through that, as a singer songwriter with Jimmy, and recognized it at the time. This is more than just a thrill. This is important. And Haggard gave me advice. He was special guest on my first headline tour.
Wow.
So we did like 100 cities together.
That's insane.
he said, I'm going to give you some advice that you didn't ask for. He said, watch the money, because by the time you figured out they stole $1 million, it'll take you $3 million to get it back.
Wow. That's crazy.
I got some advice from Roy Rogers. Are you too young to know that name? No, you know the name.
Yeah, I know the name. I'm
so
very
I didn't
familiar.
grow up. I was past the point of growing up watching his movies and TV shows, but
I remember hearing my grandfather talk about him all the time.
Knew who he was and had seen enough of him, and then got to work with him. And we did a song together that was a single, made a video.
That's really cool.
And it was right when I'd proposed to Lisa, and I came to the set for the video shoot and told him I was engaged. We were going to get married, and he said, congratulations. And he said, I'll give you one piece of advice. Don't ever go to bed angry, which is just brilliant, important advice.
Amen.
You know, communication to us, we believe is the key, you know,
Absolutely.
Talking it out, and don't keep dragging stuff behind you.
Yeah.
And he put it in such simple terms that it stuck. You know?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
How long have you and Lisa been together now?
We're coming up on 35th anniversary.
Wow. That's incredible. Congratulations. That's
Thanks.
hard to find in this day and age.
Yeah, with any walk of life. A lot of people think it's, you know, boy, it's tough in the entertainment business, but, you know, it's tough to make two lives work together as one in any business. And we were just lucky, you know, we fell in love, and then we protected our marriage, and
it's amazing.
You know, never called each other a name we couldn't take back, you know, or anything like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the older I get, the more I learn how different we all are as individuals. And I think early on, even in a marriage, like, you know, I thought, all right, I'm the breadwinner at this point. I'm doing this. I've got a song on the radio at the time. Like, thought I had made it. And I think the most important thing about having her in my corner all these years is she's always kept me grounded, always knocks me down a couple pegs when I start to think I'm doing anything on my own. But
how many years now?
17.
That's great.
So I've been together almost 20 years and have two kids. But it's one of the most challenging things, but also one of the most rewarding and incredible things I've ever experienced. I mean,
and congratulations. I mean, you've done it. You know, I mean, getting through, you know, having children and doing all that. You know, there's a lot of stress. You know, making your way in this business, a lot of stress, and that can take its toll. But yeah, the relationship, friendships are great. You know, business relationships. My manager and me, I think, almost 18 years now.
Wow.
You know, but you have to have that constant companion, that one person who you're going to pull each other past the wall.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And also, you know, let you know in the right way when you're an idiot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And, 'cause we are, especially
100%.
guys.
Yeah.
But we are different. You know? I mean, the things that, and when we laugh at our differences, you know, we have a daughter, she's, almost 25, Lily.
Yeah.
And we laugh about ourselves. We can laugh at who I am that's different. And, you know, you know, women, you know, the amount of talking, you know, if I called home and talked to my dad, Lisa would ask me all kinds of questions after, and I had no answers.
Yeah.
Well, don't you ask him anything? Well, yeah. Well, you know, what did you ask him about? Well, the golf. You know, what else? I don't know.
Yep.
It was, well, did you ask how your brothers are doing? No. And they will talk about things, she and Lily, and you know, maybe the first time it's, what do you mean? The second and third time it's, we all laugh about it.
Right.
Because it's like, well, I'm going to go in there now. So they're still talking about this.
Right.
They're still talking about a table. I've had enough of that table.
Yeah.
And so we were able to laugh at ourselves because we are different, and we will rub each other the wrong way from time to time. But if you don't understand that that's just because we're different and that we should laugh about it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lisa would start saying stuff to me first thing in the morning before I've even had some coffee. And one morning I said, yeah, all I said was good morning. So we laugh about that.
That's awesome.
And I think it's if you look at that as an acceptable difference, then it's not a hurtful thing.
Yeah.
To laugh or make fun of.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was telling my wife the other night, I was like, there's no other person in this world that I would have rather gone through this journey with. I mean, then there's been so many ups and downs. I lost my mom and my sister both in the last 2 years. And I don't know how I would have been able to even get through that without having her by my side. And it wasn't necessarily that it was always the right word and she always had the right thing to say. It was just I knew she was there and I knew she loved me and would support me through whatever I was going through. And, you know, having success on the radio, then getting dropped from RCA and all this other stuff. I mean, I don't think if I had that didn't have that constant in my life, if I would still even be here today. And I've also been fortunate enough to spend the last 11 years sober from alcohol, and I was headed down a pretty crappy path. And she told me, she's like, I'm not saying I'm going to leave you if you keep drinking, but one day you may look up and everything you've worked for is going to be gone.
I'm not saying you'd notice if I left
exactly.
you.
And the way I was, I probably wouldn't have noticed, to be honest.
Yeah, that's great. I'm happy for you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Most happy about your family and that.
Thank you.
Because it's, especially in this business, when you have so many pressures, it's easy to regularly medicate.
Yeah.
And it just compounds.
It does.
Continuously. And, I've seen it. I've been in this business long enough now to see that happen. There's a story in my book about when I was playing in a band with my brother, and people were sending us drinks. I was 18. I haven't had a drink on stage since then.
Really?
Just something happened, on stage, and it was a minor disaster in the big picture, but at the moment it was a big disaster. And I remember my thought was, if I don't stop doing this, I'm gonna end up like George Jones. George was the example of, what alcohol will do if you do it too much. So that was it. After the show, it's fine, but I was never a big drinker anyway, but I like it. And I'm easily intoxicated,
right.
So it doesn't take long, and now I've had too much.
Yeah. I was listening to something the other morning, and this guy was talking about addiction, and whatever I do, I dive, head first, full-fledged in whatever it is. And, so I try to take my sobriety really seriously and just learn as much as I can about the human brain. And this guy was talking about, addiction. He goes, a lot of people look at it as the addiction is the problem. The addiction a lot of times, or the substance, is the solution. And that got me thinking. He was, okay, so what's the actual problem? What am I running from? What am I so insecure about that I need this, security blanket to, lose some inhibition and feel better about myself? And once I heard that and just recently started changing my approach and my perspective, it's been wild, because
that's a great line.
It's crazy. Like, I mean, we all are, again, it's like, we've demonized addicts as being, just these dysfunctional idiots. And a lot of addicts are very, very intelligent, very, high functioning, almost, a lot of them are on even like the spectrum as far as autism and, stuff goes. So for me to see it from that perspective has really completely opened up my eyes. And, you know, even just as an addict myself, talking to other people that are in recovery, it's, you know, when you approach it from that way and give people a little bit more grace than maybe they think they're even deserving of, I think it really can change things, and it removes kind of the stigma that's associated with all of it, where for so many years I think people haven't been willing to talk about it. You never hear about people, you know, sharing their struggles with addiction because it was a sign of weakness, you know, up until recently. And I'm sure, you know, depending on the school of thought you subscribe to, it's still the same for a lot of people. But for me,
I've asked friends before, what hole are you filling with that?
100%.
And because that's just the way I looked at it. You know, you can have a craving, you know, but I think for the most part, it's like if I like a martini, right? So if I have a martini, it's so delicious. It's just like, to me, it's just like, oh, I'm going to have another one. And halfway through the second one, I'm just sloshed. I'm just, I shouldn't have this. You shouldn't have this second half, you know? And so I know that happens, but I stopped then. And I think if I were trying to solve a problem with it, I wouldn't stop.
Yeah. And I think that was my problem. If it was there, I was going to finish it. And subconsciously, it was because I'm filling a hole. Like
I think there are a lot of singers, performers, going on stage nervous and anesthetized. Can you say it?
Anesthetized?
Anesthetizing themselves.
It's a hard word to say.
I think my tongue is anesthetized. And basically killing the stage fright with a shot or a beer or whatever they're having. And Trace Atkins and I were talking on my Talking in Circles show that he was drinking on stage. And one day his manager played him a board tape.
Wow.
Which board tapes are cruel anyway.
They are.
Nobody wants to hear a board tape. And that was it for him. He stopped doing that. And, you know, it's none of my business, but I watch and worry for some of these young artists and hope that, you know, a shot before a show, you know, but when the shot becomes, you know, more during the show, where you're having, you know, you come off stage toasty, you know, then you're on your road to a bigger problem than stage fright. Yeah. So it's you know, just watch and hope. Yeah. Because I love seeing these new artists coming up and become friends with some of them and just hope for the best. Yeah. You know, so many of my contemporaries had, you know, it's just surfacing now that they had a problem with it. And so it was, 35 years of having a problem with it, or 30 or 25. So keep it up. Yeah. Congratulations. Thank you. And isn't life great? It is. Yeah. It's such a beautiful gift. And I think we lose sight of it so easily. I mean, we get caught up in the minutia of the success, whether you've had it or you haven't, whether you've had a taste of it and trying to get it again. I mean, how's everyone around you, you know, at the band and everything, and with it? Great. Encouraging and very encouraging. You know, me and Steven, we had always drank together. Like I started drinking probably 5 or 6 years earlier than he did. You know, I spent a lot of time in Europe as a kid, and drinking age back then in certain countries was 16, 18. So I had a taste of it early on. And you know, wine replaced water over there. Exactly. I think, you know, 150 years ago. Yeah, or eating dinner at night, you know, I'm 12 years old, and the other kids at the table are drinking wine. It's like, all right, I guess I will too. And it was a gastronomic experience. Yep. And, you know, even as a kid, it's like, okay, I had a great childhood, I thought at the time, but then after realizing, you know, my mom struggled with addiction and some other stuff, it's like you start to relive memories and you start to look back on things and you realize, oh, okay, my childhood wasn't the same as some of my friends. I just thought, you know, this is how it was for everybody. Yeah. So to see that and then really look back at, you know, my habits and patterns that developed, you know, at a very, very early age. And I was obviously, even then, it's like, oh, this is a
a taste of numbness. I feel a little bit less, but I feel better.
Yeah, and there's some genetics involved.
Oh, 100%.
For centuries, alcohol purified our water.
Yep.
So it's in our DNA.
It is. And like I was saying about Steven, he, we both struggled with it. I got sober probably about 10 years before he did. And then this past year, he finally realized, it had taken its toll and he needed to take a break. And so he went to, a rehab program and got things figured out for himself. And he's probably the best I've ever seen him. I mean, we've been best friends our whole career, and we've been fortunate enough to be each other's accountability partners on the road and whatnot. And he hasn't completely stopped drinking, but he just has a drink here and there now, and it's great. Yeah. And I think he's learning. We were talking the other night after a show, and we were both saying, we're like, I hate the feeling of being sober on stage. He's like, I still haven't figured out how to really enjoy it without kind of that, security blanket that the alcohol offers.
Being on stage is weird.
It is.
In the book, I get into the feelings I have when I walk out on stage. I think I left the part in about leaving the stage, but either way, there's got to be a conversation in your head.
Yeah.
I was saying, no matter how big the ovation is I walk out to, I don't feel like I own it. I don't feel like I've earned it. I feel like I haven't earned that until maybe 2/3 through the show. I've earned it. I feel like I've given you my best.
Right.
And at times might be excellent. You're getting what you came here to get, right. But at the top of the show, I don't feel that. And so there's insecurity there. And I just have to go, I'm going to do it.
Right.
I'm going to be at my best tonight. And, but I don't walk out going, this is natural. And right. Yes, of course you love me, don't you? And so, how we deal with that weirdness of it all, it's not normal to walk into a mall and have somebody scream because you walked into a mall and they spotted you. And so you have to learn how to deal with that and be on stage. I watch people, I go, man, he's looking weird up there. And I go, yeah, because it's weird.
Yeah.
And none of us, there are people who maybe they think so much of themselves that it's perfectly fine, right. Natural. And yes, of course. But I'm not one of them.
Not the rule.
Yeah, I'm not one of them. And I think most of us are up there just trying to play our music and look normal.
Yeah.
And like this is all natural. And, it's easy to see how drugs or alcohol can come into that world to try to help it out.
Yeah, I was talking to another artist recently who's having some amazing success, and I was just saying, man, it's got to be awesome, but I always like to just ask people about the mental health side of things, just because it's something I've really focused on the last 5 or 6 years, because I've realized its importance. And he was telling me, he's like, man, I love every aspect of it. I love the vibe. I love the energy the crowd gives back to me. He goes, the hardest thing for me is coming off stage every night after experiencing that high, whether it's after, an encore or something else. And he goes, then I go back to my bus by myself, or I go back to a hotel room by myself, and I'm alone. I've just had this amazing experience with 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people.
Who is this you're talking? You don't have to say.
But
yeah.
But it was wild to hear that from somebody that's seemingly at the top of their game, and they're surrounded by people that love them. But even that, it's like, okay, how many of these people truly love me for me, and how many of these people on my team are trying to ride my coattails or just use me as a stepping stone to get to that next level? He goes, I come off stage, I start second guessing myself. I wonder if my show is as good as I thought it was.
Those aren't healthy questions, are they?
But I think everybody probably does it in that moment. I got to thinking, I was like, well, I have a duo partner, and I've done it with him my entire career. So most of the time we share a hotel room, and we can debrief, we can talk about it. We say, okay, that was awesome when you did that. That reaction was incredible. We should do that again. But when you don't have anyone necessarily bounce those ideas off
Yeah.
of, you have to wait till the next day. Now at least you have your phone. You can type up some notes in and like go back to the
FaceTime
well.
now. I mean, when I was getting started, you know, it was you had to get to a hotel to make a phone call.
Yeah.
And I can, you know, come off stage and FaceTime with Lisa, and you know, she wants to hear how it went, and you know, I'll have a shower and a after show meal, and then go hang out on the band bus, and you know, we don't often talk about the show unless somebody in the audience was doing something weird,
Right.
and but just to sit around with anyone and have some normalcy.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for so long now. You know, I played the bars for 10 years before recording for RCA. So, you know, 45 years of this life of,
Wow.
you know, being on stage in front of one person in a bar, you know, to, you know, playing the biggest venues and all of the TV stuff. You know, I was lucky enough to do it in a healthy way, you know, not drinking and drugging, and so and always being interested like you into the psychology of it all, and so, but you know, how if you're coming on stage, Keith Moon, John Bonham, these people went nuts after shows.
Right.
It had to be about that. Had to be about, you know, this train just came to a screeching halt. I don't understand it. I kind of think maybe a little bit I do.
Yeah.
But you know, you had a different experience.
Yeah.
You know, I had, you know, my band, Hayden, Nicholas, you know, and Dick Gay and Jake Willamay, and these guys who, you know, were with me for 30 years plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's asking somebody about the mental health side of it. You know, that's such a good question. And I like to be kind of like, you know, Buffett was with me for anyone who wants any advice. You know, I try not to just offer advice.
Right.
But that's a good question I'm going to remember because everyone sees Ella Langley is exploding.
Right.
Emily Ann Roberts is just coming on strong.
Yep.
You know, Riley Green, you know, just bam, you know, Cody Johnson. These guys just, you know, filling up these arenas and stadiums. And the fans, the team, the band, the crew, very few are going to have enough insight to understand that the top of the world is sometimes it's chaos and stress and all of this stuff, you know. And who do you talk to about it? You know, who do you go to? You know, there's a young presidents organization for young presidents of companies that can get together and talk to people who are going through or went through the same thing they went through. We don't have that.
No.
I tried to start an artist organization for all of us to get together, you know, at every stage of our career and share and learn.
That's incredible.
I don't have the capacity to get something like that going, I learned. But
I think that's so important. I mean, and even just to reference Ella, like you're talking about, I mean, looking at her career, watching the trajectory, and then, you know, now seeing that she has kind of Miranda Lambert in her corner. And I think that's invaluable for her to have somebody that's been through it, that's done it on their own terms, albeit on a major label. But, I mean, to have someone like that for her to bounce ideas off of, to talk about the mental health, talk about the stress. I mean, you know, I can't imagine with the way social media is now and how ruthless people are and the comments that people make about these young women, it's disgusting. It really is. And for them to have to read that and then go sit in the back of the bus by themselves and try to process that, like, what does that do to a young mind like that?
They don't need to be reading that.
No, but it's also like,
but you want to be, you want the interaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to just post something and then not see how people react to it. I mean, because everything is.
And you want to you give back. Most of us enjoy the sharing of ourselves with our fans because we love them and the way they take care of, treat us, follow us, come to the shows, all of that stuff. But you know, the hater thing, you know, I didn't get a lot of that, but you know, in '92 I started the Blackboard, which was kind of my social media page back then, early internet days. And so I'd read everything that came in, and I had a webmaster, Macrina Doyle, who would answer questions that she knew the answer to. And if I knew she didn't know the answer, I'd send it to her, and she would answer them because I knew I became isolated. In the club days, I'd walk off the stage over to a table and say, how you doing? And thanks for requesting that song or whatever. That goes away, you know, with stardom. And so you want that. But I think the worst thing I ever saw was, I didn't like that shirt, you know. Why are you wearing that velour shirt, velvet shirt or whatever, you know? Because I saw it, I thought I looked good, you know. What other reason do you need? So, hopefully, you know, I look at everything I see on Ella's, you know, coming in, and I'm a big fan and think she's great. And I see all this stuff, and I just know that she is working nonstop. I mean, it's just one photo shoot to another show to another visit, another, you know. And I mean, it's maybe one of the biggest themes in my book is, how does a singer do all this and sing?
Wow.
You know, how do you have anything left? To sing with at the end of the day. And this was a source of depression for me. And, you know, if I hadn't been afraid of, you know, addiction or alcoholism, I may have gone that road. To just, I'm going to feel better however I can, though I know I'm not going to be able to sing tonight. And I
think you can get to a point where if you are depressed, and I've experienced it more in the last couple of years than I ever have, losing, you know, some family members, but it's really hard to really navigate that situation because you're willing to almost sabotage your career on a certain level just to maintain some sense of comfort.
Career be damned. I'm going to feel better right now.
And I mean, from the outside looking in, I've seen people do it, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And then I look back on myself, it's like, well, no, you've done the exact same thing. Why were you doing it? What were you running from? And were you successful? No, it never worked. It never made me feel better. It actually always made me feel worse. And so again, it's like, and to your point, all these younger artists, they don't just get to be an artist. You don't just get to write and record music. You have to be a social media content master. You have to be a video editor. You have to be able to do it all. And if you want to have a team that does all that for you, you got to have a lot of money to do it. And some people do have it. They have parents that'll fund it, investors, but you know, for the most part, people don't. And
and a lot of teams, like my manager was in a band. You know, he played in bars, and then he had toured, you know, with an artist, Brian White, and
love Brian.
You know, he understands what living in a bus is, and you know, going in and out of hotels, and you know, being up for the show and all of that stuff. I think probably infinitely more than most managers who, you know, really never toured. You know, I've had managers in the past who showed up at Vegas, L.A., and New York and Nashville shows, you know.
I've been there.
And and, you know, not that they needed to be at the other ones, but it's just hard for them to recognize what they're seeing for what it is. So, you know, my first manager, I was a cash cow. We were doing 8 on, 1 off, 9 on, 1 off, 21 on, 1 off, 23 on, 3 off. That 3 was spent doing other stuff. You know, so, you know, it was killing me. And I think the awareness of these artists now may be greater than mine was. You know, and the networking is easier with texting, and it's much easier to stay in touch with other people who are going through what you're going through or did. You know, who can say, hey, you know, you need to tell them no. You know, try saying no a couple of times a month.
Yeah.
And
That's always been my biggest issue is I think it was burnt into our minds we were signed to Lyric Street Records for our first record deal, and we would hear horror stories. All right, well, so-and-so that's on the label, they won't do this, and now they're not having success on the radio, so this is why.
Yeah.
So it was kind of forced on us, like, you need to say yes to everything, or you're gonna miss out on all these opportunities. So I kind of took that mentality into the rest of my career, and we ran ourselves ragged to the point where I didn't care if I ever played music again at a few different points, just because it wasn't enjoyable. It was just, I was exhausted all the time, and because I couldn't say no, and I thought I had to say yes. And as soon as I started saying no, doors started opening. I wasn't in places that I didn't want to be, that I shouldn't have been. And it was, as soon as that happened, it was like a light switch went off for me. And I was like, man, I have to be so purposeful with my time and my energy, because it is important. And if I run out of it, I don't have anything to give my kids. I don't have anything to give my wife. And then most importantly, I have nothing left to give myself. And if I'm nothing, then I'm nothing for all these people.
There's one thing I put in the book that I was reluctant and still think, I don't know if I should have put that in the book, but at one point my agent said, we need to start saying no. I was doing 95 to 100 shows a year. And he said, I can't get you better gigs and, better guarantees and all of that stuff if we're going to say yes to everything. And I was doing as many shows as I could because, everybody that works for me is a day player, get paid by the show. And, and so it was a tough decision because, well, this is going to affect them,
right?
But I'm going to just start doing less. I'm going to do less shows, and the venues will get, more consistently better. So it's a better day for the band and crew and me, where we live for the day and all of that. And it helped. It worked. The whole life, touring life got better. But it's usually not those people, the managers and the agents, who say, you need to say no less. It's always the opposite.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you saying less means usually less money for them, for the team, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And that's always, I realized recently in life, I'm very much so a people pleaser. And, I will always put my wants and needs on the back burner just to make sure everyone else around me is happy. And I think that probably came from me needing to keep my mom happy as a kid. And I was really the barometer for her, if things were going well with me, and if she would kind of manipulate me to keep the peace in the family. And I recognize now that I'm still that guy, and I hate saying no.
I'd be really pleased if you'd paint my house. I'm going to hire a guy, but if you would do it,
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I don't think you should say no to this, if just come paint the house and pull some weeds.
Yep. Oh, it's crazy how
I was trying. You're telling me that. I was going, what can I ask him for? He's a people pleaser. What can I get out of him? Paint my house.
Hey, by tomorrow afternoon, your house will be painted.
Steve Warner's a great painter. He's a buddy, and I tried to get him to paint it, but he just does canvas. So he's not going to paint it.
That's pretty cool. Well, let's talk about your book, Killin Time. You've referenced it a few times. How'd this come about? I mean,
well, my team, they got some literary agents. They all ganged up on me.
Yeah.
And convinced me I should and could do it. I never thought I would. I never thought about it.
Yeah.
But once they convinced me, then it was game on, you know. I have to do this. I have to do it well. And nearly killed myself doing it. I was,
really,
10, 11 hours a day at the computer on days off, just writing.
Wow.
And I had some help. Craig Shelburne, did a lot of research, interviewed me a bunch, organized whatever I said, and came up with structures for chapters, which allowed me to then go in and rewrite and put it all. And I would read manuscripts of interviews I did with him and think, who is that guy talking? You know, I don't like the way he says things. So it's a lot of rewriting of my own stories, and it was it got to a point. At one point, I would ride on days off on the road, and I started getting headaches from just being at the laptop for 10 hours a day, and I couldn't get away from it. I could go, I need to take a break. And so I'd start doing something else, and I'd stop that and go right back to it.
Wow.
And so it was tough. And it was tough to keep track of it all, what the timeline is, what came first and what came next. And Craig was a big help with that. But what stories to tell.
Right.
The legal department had something to say about that.
Yeah.
But, it was a trip. It was a journey. It was a slog. Mm-hmm. It was, and when I finished it, I was so relieved, and then I learned I was not finished.
Right.
Now I have to read it again, and catch, hiccups and timeline issues and typos and any words I want to change, anything I want to change about it. And then, great. And then, no, you're not done yet. Now we're going to give it back to you with these changes you made, and you're going to read it again.
Man.
And you're going to refine it even more.
Wow.
And then you're going to turn that, and we'll make those changes, and then we'll look for errors, and we'll make notes about that. You look through those notes now and respond to those notes and make your changes. And then that's done, and then you're not finished. Now you're going to get on the phone with the legal editor who's been through it.
Wow.
And you're going to respond to their notes and tell them why you think you can tell this story and not get sued.
Right.
And so then it's like, okay, that's done. Now you're going to read it on tape for the audio book. And doing that, I found there were still several typos or errors in there. So ultimately, I didn't have any idea of whether it was good or not. To me, it was a science project, at the end. Cool. And like a record, if you're so close to it, all it is a science of making sure everything is heard.
Right.
And there's no mojo left in it.
Yeah.
But I've had some friends read it, and people who I didn't, know, who've interviewed me. Mm-hmm. And the things they said about it, I don't believe everything someone says to me that's flattering. But the things they said about it were convincing to me that it's a good read, and
that's fantastic,
and that the stories were moving and shocking. There's some shock in there, and I think a lot of young artists, if they read it, they're gonna see some of themselves in there, and maybe they'll see some pitfalls and potholes that they can miss.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's I'd like to say I'm proud of it, but the jury's still out.
Yeah.
I'm still in that process. I talk about it in the book, how I deal with compliments, and so I'm always careful about it. But I'm starting to be convinced that it's really good.
That's fantastic.
We'll see.
Well, I can't wait to read it. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Just gave me a copy this morning, so I'm looking forward to checking it out.
One of the things you'll be probably most impressed with is my judicious use of commas.
All right. So
I'm almost an expert in punctuation now, and I can brag on the commas.
Well, that leads me to my next question. I oftentimes, I've been writing a couple books over the years and have some friends that have had things published and whatnot, and most of the time there's always like some sort of ghostwriter or someone that comes in for people that aren't necessarily the best writers or whatever. Yeah. It sounds like you did the majority of it or all of it yourself, and it's truly your story. Obviously you have Craig as a part of it, but it even seems like that didn't seem like more of like a ghostwriter type thing. It seems
No, it wasn't
like
a ghostwriter.
Just a different perspective.
It was just with Craig. So yeah, they're my stories. Some of the statistical stuff or timeline stuff that he went and found, that I wasn't even thinking of, and he would tell me, you won this award this year, and
Gotcha.
I mean, just so he did so much of that work. It freed me up to tell the stories, but yeah, I was, fingers on the keypad, the typewriter, and doing all that stuff. He would structure a chapter, for like the first 8, 9, 10 chapters, whatever, maybe more. He would structure it with the stories I'd told him and some of the things that happened during that time period, like, platinum awards and
Gotcha.
award show awards and all that. By the time I got into the teens of chapters, I was doing a lot of the structuring myself. I'd say by chapter 14, it was just, I was a free range chicken at that point. But it's all in my words, and but I couldn't have done it as well without him providing some structure to it and doing all that research and all the interviews, the questions he asked me that he transcribed and would put on a Google Doc. So I'd go on there and I'd go, yeah, I like the way I said that, but the rest of this has to go. And so I'd go into another doc and just write all that. And so, I recommend it to anyone who's never written a book. I'd like to say I did it all by myself, but, it was a source of accomplishment. But, it's really hard to do. And my editor, Maddie Polari at Harper Collins, learned so much from her.
Really?
And I knew I would. And my publisher, Lisa Sharkey, she told me one day, she said, I really need you to trust Maddie. And I was way ahead of her.
Right.
I just knew already what an editor can do for a book.
Yeah.
And so I was excited about the opportunity to have her tell me what was working and what wasn't working. Yeah. And so she just became my fast new best friend, who I couldn't wait to talk to about what I just sent in. Yeah. Because it would be, 40% worse a book,
if it weren't
without
for
her and
her.
Craig. Yeah.
That's really cool. Is it nice to have kind of just this more concise version of your career that you can almost look at and reference, just for specific dates, for specific times, and having Craig kind of lay out the timeline for you? Is that? It
was interesting to go through that. It's a memoir, so it's not a biography, so it's not all of that. It's just the memories of those things that were significant.
Right.
But we had to approach it kind of like a biography, so I had to relearn my life and times,
Yeah.
And that was fun. I had forgotten too much of it.
Yeah.
So being presented with, this is what was happening in 1994.
Right.
I go, I thought that was 93. And I don't remember winning that or being given this, or I forgot about being on that show.
Yeah.
It was a fun journey, but it was a slog.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just strolling through.
Right. Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have a Lifetime movie coming out as well, and love to hear a little bit about that and how that came about.
Yeah, I was approached by Lifetime to develop a movie, springboarding off of When I Said I Do. So part of their romance, a Love of a Lifetime series. And I wasn't sure that was appealing to me. It wasn't instantly something I wanted to do, but I was convinced that that there was going to be enough of a creative involvement. It wasn't just they're going to take this song and go make a movie and use the song, which wasn't that appealing to me, but that it was going to be, Lisa and I were involved in the development and got to help shape what the story would be, what the values would be expressed in it, and the principles, the way they behaved. One of the things that I go through watching movies is, that guy's a jerk,
Right.
or why would he do something like that? Or, why is she doing that? That's just, people behaving badly.
Right.
I didn't want that as a part of a love story, two people who were going to end up together. So my sensibilities about it, Lisa and I were able to bring that stuff into the development of the movie, and that was appealing because it was more of a creative outlet.
Yeah.
And I got to come up with how we would be in the movie, how we would appear in the movie,
Wow, that's
what our roles would be, what we said. I wrote much of our dialogue, and so it was much more than my first impression gave me.
Right.
As just involving the song. And once I learned that, then it was, again, game on.
Yeah.
And, what do we have to do and how can we do it? And working with Adam Reed, the other executive producer, who's, he's really an executive producer. He made executive producers out of us,
Right.
Just the effort, that I know he put into it and his care to make it something that we were going to be happy with ultimately,
That's really cool.
It was big, yeah.
You think you'll do anything more in that vein? Or
we would.
Yep.
Yeah. I've got a lot of love songs. Who knows what they would want to do.
Right.
Yeah, we've actually joked about that, what the next movie will be. And after this experience, we would definitely do it. Yeah.
Was that pretty fun being able to do it with Lisa? And
yeah, and she's, a real pro, She's done, I don't remember, I think when we met, she was doing 5 or 6 movies a year.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
And all her time in TV, and she made albums, so she was already, her ability to sing and hear, what's going on, is unsurpassed. She's a real pro. And I didn't even know when we got married all of this because we didn't have YouTube back then.
Right.
And I would say on stage is, it wasn't like it is now. I could just Google her. I mean, I wanted to Google her, but it would be years before I would get to hear the songs that she sang on Knots Landing, and just knocked out, doing Journey and Pat Benatar and just killing it. Really cool. But working with her in the studio, Lisa, it's like if a note is not right, she would know it before I would.
Really?
Or if we were doing harmonies, her figuring out the harmony to my melody, or vice versa. She was as quick as I was with that stuff, just right on it. So, cool. So doing what I said I do, and then working on the movie we did 2 movies together before this one, and so I would learn a lot. She told me in the first movie we did together, you need to be ready to sit around a lot.
Yeah.
Because I'm go, go, go.
Right. A lot of hurry up and wait and acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought our business, there was a lot of hurry up and wait, and then we've just did a few guest spots on some TV shows and movies, and there all day for a 3-minute shot. And
you get a small taste of it doing like morning talk shows, Good Morning America and Today's Show and stuff, where you have to get there at 4 a.m. to be ready for a 9 o'clock hit.
Yeah, Yeah, no, it's exhausting, and I think most people just have no clue what goes into all of it and the commitment that it really is.
And it's good. It would bore them to death.
Yeah,
they'd tune out by the time we did the song.
You're right. And now it's getting even worse just because people's attention spans have gotten so much shorter.
Tiny.
So.
Yep.
Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on today. I do have one more question for you, just kind of with the state of the business. Like, who are some of the artists? I know you mentioned Ella and your buddies with Riley, but who are some of the others that you're really excited about that are kind of carrying the torch from your era? And
the first name that always comes to mind is Emily Ann Roberts.
Yeah.
Ernest and I have become friends, so I've discovered more about him than I knew, and just love it all. Emily Ann, I've had a friendship with since she started opening for me, and I told my agent and manager, just get her every chance you can.
That's great.
She's not going to be available soon, and so having her and her husband Chris out with us, getting to know them. Beyond who they are and how dynamic she is and what a character she is, the songwriting and the singing is just fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of what she does.
And I mean, I can't even think of all the names now, but the list is so encouraging. That one of my things is I want to understand the lyrics, and Stroud used to tell me, we're losing a word here, so we always made sure the lyrics were heard. And I'm hearing, I thought, maybe my hearing's going, but I'm hearing more music now that it's the lyrics are standing out to me, which is the first thing I grab onto.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
we work with a guy that books a lot of shows. He's a senior software guy at Apple, but he books cool experiences kind of on the side just as a passion project. And one of the first shows we ever played with him, Emily Ann Roberts was on there, and I remember hearing her for the first time thinking, hey, why is this girl not bigger already? But just having watched her career now and what she's doing, it's really inspiring and exciting to watch. And
she's gonna be her own Chip and Joanna TV star, I mean, aside from the music, just what's happening in your garden, It's what are you canning today? See these videos, I think. And she's already got her own TV show on Instagram,
Yeah, and it's incredible. And that's one thing I love about social media and these platforms is it's giving people opportunities that didn't exist 20 years ago. And you couldn't have done this. And I think it's given people an amazing platform. And, it's exciting. I'm just trying to get better at it. It's hard to, when you've done something a certain way for so long to adopt new things. But we're really at that state where it's like if you don't adopt it on some level, you're going to get left behind. So
my daughter Lily makes me do stuff, Dad, just stand here and do this. Or the anthropology rock. She's spraying on me. Or just dance, Dad. We're just going to play this song and we're going to dance. There you go. Yeah, that'll be funny. Me dancing.
Hey, it works though, right?
And people love it. And I hear from fans, I read the comments, they love seeing that stuff. But I wouldn't just be doing it. Somebody has to push me into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to sit with you and catch up and learn more about you. Again, such a big fan, and thank you for everything you've done for country music and the legacy that you've created, and that it's amazing.
All self-serving. Thanks. Good to get to know you a little bit.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and you're still out on the road. You're touring a bunch, and
80 cities a year.
It's incredible.
Year after year, and still loving it, still getting better. And when I stop doing that, I'll probably quit or slow down.
Well, I was looking earlier, I went back through our stuff and to try to see if we'd ever played a show together, and I think we've played the same couple festivals like a day apart, but never
on the show
together. So hopefully one of these days we'll make that happen.
And I never learned which one of you is theft.
Well, it depends. It used to be me based on my criminal record, but after getting sober, I don't get arrested anymore. So
I'll keep my wallet in the zipper pocket,
smart,
to be safe.
Thank you so much, man.
Enjoyed it.
Clint Black, everybody, check him out. And amazing guy, amazing, a legend in this business. So thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all next time.